And we go. Uh-oh. Is the game gonna crash right off the bat? The next 2 days rush by in a blur, altogether leaving a collective mess of work and suddenly piling up new unexpected acquaintances or friends. Depends how you look at it, really. Oh, we skipped right after where he left the mansion, looks like. Either way, I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 in the morning to reach a deadline set by an overeager art director. Don't get me wrong, Julius is good, he has vision, and knows what he wants. But damn, he can be too enthusiastic sometimes.
Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway.
There's nothing new in it, of course. After years of working freelance, it's simply something I've grown used to. Get to know people, build a client base, do good work, cash in some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footing on the field, but it's the kind of thing that pays off in the long run as you keep at it. So we're skipping ahead 2 days? So are we on the 27th then? Given enough time, you might end up with the big names on your client list. Names like the Wrights in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible to not hear about them when local news channel or paper has something to say about their name. Party here, an acquisition there. Sometimes it's a new business venture, other times it's everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high-profile couple. Between that and the fuss that comes with it, it leaves me no time to ponder over what happened to Isabella, or why Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair.
They do seem like the good folk, though, despite the whole fame thing.
Sure, there was a rumor running around years ago about him being involved in some business scandal. But just like every gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing came of it. And eventually it simply died down. Interesting. The plot thickens. I like how there's a lot of B-plot stuff that's going on in the background that is honestly distracting from the whole chain letter nonsense. Keeps the story interesting. We have a romance subplot. There's a business scandal now. There's the pregnancy scandal now. That got thrown in last time. There's a baby on the way. How did I forget that? Oh, and the murder of a coworker. Which might actually not... Now that I think about it, the fact that they've been looking for this guy for some time makes me think that it's probably unrelated to the haunting. But the missing people, yeah, that's definitely the haunting. But just like every gossip... Okay. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Mrs. Wright would pick him if he doesn't have any good points at all. Mrs. Wright, Hannah herself, though, she ain't particularly bad the way the press makes her out to be. The tabloids had it all wrong, that's for sure. For someone born with a silver spoon in her mouth, well, she ain't exactly what I was expecting. Among other things, the newfound friendship is what I least expected from her. But here we are. Although with life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person, when given the chance. Heck, she might have even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella, too. If they weren't living worlds apart, she kinda is friends with Rebecca. Indirectly, but you don't know that. Again, B-plot stuff, tying it all together. And she indirectly knows who Ashton is. The beep quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. Oh, that's right. In one practiced motion, I carefully place a wet print holding on a drying rack and amble over a makeshift darkroom to get the last photos from the water bath. Inside the converted broom. Oh, he's doing all this in his closet. Okay. The film processor lets out another soft clack before going on standby mode. We're going to see the ghost in one of the photos. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with the lack of light. The last one tonight for the set for Mrs. Wright requested. I don't usually make this a habit, giving away stuff, that is. It's bad for business, no matter how well-intentioned or generous you are. This exception, however, she did treat me well and was a pleasant companion throughout the entire shoot. Even if she didn't ask, I probably would have given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Mrs. Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. I mean, she was hard to not like. I kind of got attached to her when we were just looking through her eyes for a week? Maybe this is just me, but for someone who has everything in the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband, and plenty of big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, how she moves, and most certainly in her smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour for the world to never see. Damn, you looked deep into those eyes, didn't you? Sometimes, for people like her, small things like these help. A little reminder that the world can be kind too. Water drips from the paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it on another tray. Are we going to see the ghost? Holding a decent amount of photo flow. Photo flow? A few seconds. The solution is all it needs before it gets ready for drying. No good rushing this last one, even if my body's already screaming for the decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving towards it with familiarity, while I fish for a squeegee among the mess of tools in the drawer with the other. A professional through and through. I keep forgetting that he knows how to play guitar. The bulb flickers twice before its glow settles and casts a soft light in the tiny space. When I glance back down, the squeegee in hand, ready to finish the process and finally call it a night.
What on earth?
Okay, that was the photo I was expecting the ghost to be in. But I wasn't expecting that. Her head is gone. Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. The area completely smudged over, leaving no trace of the same sweet smile the good woman carried in all the previous prints.
Damn, that was too careless.
A common mistake to make, of course. Unrealistic beauty standards. Common mistake to make, of course, if one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark, like I apparently did. Oh, so he just fucked it up. Okay, never mind. It has happened before, loads of time actually. But I still can't help feel a small pang of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. With a sigh, I reach for the switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch.
It could pass off for one of those supernatural pictures they show on TV, though.
Memory clicks, one cursory thought in the sea of many, and a short yet distinct second from the day before. The glimpse is all I got, but it's enough to burn the image in my mind. There was a shadow. Actually, now that I mention it, there is like a dark spot like right here on the photo. That's where the ghost was. No, a woman. In her 20s or early 30s maybe? With how far gone her flesh alone has become, it's not possible to tell at first glance. Zoom out, man. Can you back up a bit? You're out of focus. The skin itself has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten in most parts. Blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. That's a lot of cuts. I've never really gotten a close look at her arm until now. And there's cuts all over. Oh, is that like exposed brain matter, or is this just veins? Bony hands grip Mrs. Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes.
Zachary?
Not for me, but for Mrs. Wright.
Zach, is something the matter?
Oh no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something I saw. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
The memory alone is enough to make me retch. I brushed it off then. Trick of the eye, I told myself, or a product of the heat. Yeah, just a trick of the eye. Some of Hannah's shots from the photo shoot of the day before came out distorted after Zachary developed them. He would have almost dismissed it as human error if he hadn't remembered a chilling memory from yesterday's shoot. Yeah, I call bull. The weather has been unexpectedly warm recently, so it shouldn't be too surprising for such things to happen. Rationalize it all you want. That place is haunted. Or it has a murderer that has the ability to disappear or not. Or it's like that one episode of Psych where they're spoofing off The Shining in room 1408. And there's just a crazy guy pumping hallucinogenic chemicals into the air vents. Good show. I recommend you watch Psych if you haven't yet. Well, blaming this on the usual, blah, 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 blah. Makes a whole lot of sense that what the small voice inside my head whispers. The same tiny voice that only makes itself known when something is afoul. The same one that lent a curious ear to Isabella's worries about the mansion. You should call a priest! And with each second I spend staring at this photograph, the murmurs in my head only grow louder against my ears. You should tell someone! Someone has to know. Well, Ash is already mad at us. I don't have an explanation for what I saw yesterday. Yet, but when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs at the back of your neck, or leave you wanting to flee or hide, finding more solid proof than a person's smudged off face on a photo is the least of my concerns. Ashton will do you still have the negatives? Try to develop the negatives. See if that one's fucked up too. Ashton will undoubtedly give me flack for saying that, or even considering Isabella's word as those silly tales about the place. The guy is a skeptic through and through. And if we keep going down the order, he's going to be like one of the last people we play as. Unless we suddenly cut back and play as Rose for some tangent. It'll take more than my account for him to get even a single thought. However, more than his opinion, it's Mrs. Wright's that I'm concerned about. Surely she must have felt something if those shows on TV were to be believed. Yeah, those shows are super fake. I did really enjoy when the Achievement Hunter guys went and did their show, Achievement Haunter. That was fun to watch, because at least it was entertaining. And I could care less about whether or not they found anything or not. Because even if they didn't, they would make it entertaining somehow. touch of coldness in her neck, or maybe a feeling of being watched. That's what often happens, ain't it? Outside, the sun is yet to rise. I've still got a few hours before dawn. Good enough time to mull over how to go about warning her. Plenty of space to check if I'll get the same result if I redo this process again. The film processor hums back to life at my touch. The light switch gives out, a soft click, and the darkness embraces the small closet again.
Somehow those urban legends don't sound so silly now.
Please tell me he did it again and we got the same exact result. In hindsight, this is a dumb idea. That is to say, rushing to a client I barely know's home first thing in the morning with news of ghost lady potentially haunting her newly bought property. And when there's a bunch of bizarre-looking pictures of Miss Hannah I've brought as proof too. So yeah, dumbest idea in history of my dumb ideas, all things considered. Traveling to the outskirts of the Ansel village at the crack of dawn with only my bike as my company, equally so. You gotta have a lot of respect to someone who bikes everywhere, especially across town. This was probably like a nice 5-mile, possibly 15-mile bike ride, if I had to wager. But he's a big dude. He's probably fit and in shape, more so than I am. I recently acquired a new bike, and I have ridden it once. I need to get exercise again. Personally, I don't think any of them would take whatever I'm going to say well, no matter how nice or accommodating they are. Ashton himself would tell me the same thing. Odds are he'll laugh in my face for good measure if he doesn't freak out at me for not listening to his warnings. Still, that's a whole separate can of worms. I'll open at a different time, seeing as I'm already standing at the Wright's front porch, waiting for someone to answer the door. More than anything, Mrs. Wright needs to know there's possibly nothing safe in this place. Warning from friends be damned.
If only someone would answer the door sooner. Come on.
That's an ominous wind. That is a Pokemon move. It's one of my favorites. It's just ancient power, but ghost type. Oops, I skipped some text. What did I skip? I try to ignore the looming presence the large ornate doors give off as I press the doorbell for the 4th time. Its shrill ringing merely echoes, carried off by another warm, passing breeze. The first time I came to this place, I found myself basking in the silence it offers. Now the atmosphere is heavy, packed with trepidation and tension. Isabella's right, it does radiate a creepy kind of vibe. And with the image from the day before constantly flashing in my mind, the unease becomes harder to ignore with each second drifts by. Not wanting to spend more time here than necessary, I ring the bell again. We're up to 5, 6 bells. Another long second ticks without anyone answering the door. If this fails, I can always go to Ash. Not really the most sensible course of action either. But waiting here and ain't doing me any good. Oh, that's right. She doesn't fucking wake up until like 11. You're probably waking them up right now. I just realized. For all I know, the Wrights could be out of town. As luck would have it, just as I'm about to turn my heel, a loud thump rises from the other side. It's followed by heavy footfalls and a string of very colorful expletives of about one's parentage.
Didn't we have that bloody annoying doorbell replaced yesterday? That Irish guy just cost me a fortune and she can't even fix this nuisance.
Uh-oh. It might be a good time to run.
And where the hell is...
Where is Johannes?
Johannes, if another po-faced prat is pressing that blighted bell, I swear I'll cut there.
The door swings open, and a very irate Mr. Wright greets me. His partly rumpled appearance, a clear testament to how early the hour is.
And who might you be? I don't recall asking the movers to show up this early.
I was prepared to face Mrs. Wright, their butler more so. But Mr. Wright? I don't quite know what to make of him yet. I only caught a sight of him yesterday as he was directing the movers. Although from how exasperated he sounded then, it seemed more like yelling was done than actual giving of directions. Needless to say, I'd like to believe those instances ain't all there is to this guy. Mrs. Wright, at the end of the day, did marry him. Yeah, but you don't know about the 7-year rough patch that they're in right now. Standing before him like now, though, is a different story altogether. Despite the difference in our respective heights, he manages to make it appear as he is the one looking down at me, and not the other way around. How tall is he? You're like 6 foot even, right? Profiles. 6 foot even? What do you think he's like? 5'8", 5'10"? I'm assuming he's 5'8". The generic male height. For I couldn't have been bothered to come up with a height for my character, so I went with the average. An apology instinctively forms in my mouth before anything else when he arches an eyebrow at my lack of response.
Well, that's not exactly why I'm here, Mr. Wright. Yeah?
Right, of course, the one and only. And what can I do for you this fine morning? Have I seen you somewhere before? Bloody you peasants all look the same to me.
Oof. He is hard to like. I have some sympathy for the man, but he is hard to like.
I'm actually...
It doesn't matter, I don't care. I've got someplace important to be at today. Just spit out what you want or be gone. I haven't got all day.
His eyes are sharp and expecting in spite of his different tone. The very impression of someone whose sharp wit has served him well throughout life, the kind you have to carefully choose your words around. Actually, hang on, I need to check something in the journal. What day was it that Hannah ran into the basement? Oh, that hasn't happened yet. In the aftermath of Rochelle's... Set this straight. There we go, Saturday. So we're on Thursday. So this hasn't happened yet. Okay. Time frame complete. Glad that we have a notebook for this. Social maneuvering. I can see why Mrs. Wright would want to steer clear of it, if only for a short while.
I'm with luxury living, sir.
He eyes the business card I hand him with a completely passive expression. He turns it between his fingers without really reading the letters printed before handing it back in the same blasé manner of one usually reserves for people below their station, or a nuisance. With him it seems... something. More of the latter than the former.
Mr. Steele.
I keep forgetting that Zachary's last name is Steele.
Just Zach would do, sir.
I can see why. You should hear what they say about my name. Although I'm of the opinion those don't sound as unpleasant as yours to the ear. Amusing what people can come up with in their leisure time, no?
I have no clue what you meant by that. That just went whoosh.
Well then, to what reason do we owe this second visit, Zach?
Right. Like I said earlier, I'm the photographer from Luxury Living. I'm here about the photo shoot yesterday and...
His eyes narrow at that, mouth tightening to a small frown, passive stance dissolving into a rigid one. It ain't a complete lie. What I came here for. But it ain't the whole truth either.
Didn't you already wrap that one up? I believe my wife was the one with you then. Even mentioned a little tete-a-tete with the photographer.
Tete-a-tete?
That was you, wasn't it?
Yes. Actually, sir, there was something I forgot to discuss with your...
And you had to show up at such an hour for something you forgot. Why wasn't there any notice about this little visit?
It was an error on my part, sir. I do apologize for not letting you know in advance.
Terribly unprofessional for someone going under the name of an esteemed publication like Luxury Living, if you ask me. Of course, even if there was a word of some sort, that butler does not check my emails as often as I would have liked. But straight up walking in here this early isn't the most sensible thing to do either.
The matter was a bit urgent, and my Art director wanted it done as soon as possible before I hand him the finished prints.
Not my problem now, is it? A common courtesy would be to wait for replies before barging in. You do well to remember that. I once fired someone before they could even submit an application. Sent an email in the morning and suddenly sauntered in the office looking knackered mere hours after. Bloody Watkins. That aside, unfortunately, you're going to have to come back some other day. You see, darling wife left not a moment to go. I have not an inkling where she went or when she'll be back, so you're better off.
Love, is it the movers?
Ooh, so he's lying off his ass too. He stops speaking altogether, and the complicit expression he has collapses on itself. It's been a while since I've seen her 3D portrait. I keep getting so jarred of it, because I get used to seeing what their image looks like down here, and how distinctly different it looks up here. It's like because of the two different art styles. Slowly he turns, just as his wife walks up to him with a step too lively for comfort. A smile too sweet, to be honest. She's very likely heard everything her husband and I have talked about.
Going off somewhere.
I've got the few things I want them to transfer already. Marianne made this splendid arrangement for the music room and... Love, are you listening?
I thought you already left, Buttercup.
She musters a frown, a pout more like. Yeah, that's definitely a pout. The mischievous gleam in her eyes when she glances at me says all there is I need to know. I would have laughed at her antics if it wouldn't offend the other man. But as it is, it's better to let the wife have her fun without any reaction from me. I'm treading on dangerous grounds with him already.
Well, I most certainly have not left yet. I wouldn't be standing here if I did, would I?
Look at that smug grin.
Of course you wouldn't be, darling. But don't you need to be somewhere else today? Something with Marianne? Shopping, girl, things?
Oh, I'll be leaving in a few. Unless you want to join us.
No thanks, darling. I'm afraid my liver, it's killing me today. Ooh!
I thought as much. You needn't have to worry. I'll be gone in a few. What kind of person would I be if I didn't greet him before leaving?
Whoa, what happened? It's just I heard that we have a visitor. Okay.
A very gracious one, I'm sure.
Zachary, right? Zach? It's a pleasure to see you again.
Likewise, ma'am. I was actually looking for you.
Is that so?
A huge display of unprofessionalism is what it's for.
Shush, darling. Let the man speak. I'm sure it isn't anything like that if he has to come all the way here, yes?
It's about yesterday. The photos you asked, I mean. The copies are ready, but...
My hand stills as I'm about to fish the prints out of my pocket. A short second passes, that which strikes me how I didn't think this through at all. How do I go about telling her regarding the strange photos, or revealing this to her in the presence of another person? Her husband gazing over us like a hawk doesn't provide any sort of comfort either. Which makes me feel weird that we're jumping back in time for this, because if I do actually show her this, it feels weird that when we were playing as her at a time point after this that it was never mentioned that this happened, or that we ran into Zach a second time. Because I could have chosen to go to Ashton with these photos, and this might not have even happened at all. Is that a plot hole? I think that's a plot hole. I hope we didn't just stumble on a plot hole. And he's just going to eat his mouth words here, and we're going to go back home without ever showing him anything. And just like that, all the words I've been practicing to say on the way here inevitably fall stiffly off my mouth. Mrs. Wright must have noticed my hesitance, because shortly she gives her husband's arm a gentle squeeze, a tender smile, and raising her face. Unlike the first one, this one is meant to appease.
Love, I think Hansi might need some of your input for the final guest list. Could you check on him, please?
Bollocks! Why in all Luxborn do I have to be there? doing tedious jobs are what he's being paid for.
Because if we end up with people whose faces you do not want to show up in our housewarming party, we won't be hearing the end of it. Unless a heavy dose of liquor's involved. You know what the doctor said about that. Please do poor Hansi and your liver a favor,
He can handle that on his own, Buttercup. And my liver is doing just fine.
I'm sure it is. But I don't know, love. I think I caught a glimpse of the name Mitch Lakes, was it? I think it was Mitch Lakes on it when I checked with Hansi earlier. You should see for yourself. It was quite a list.
Who put that blighted twat in there?
Who is Mitch Lakes, and why does he hate him so much?
And that's why I'm asking you to look over it before I do so tonight.
Very well.
But even with that promise, he doesn't appear ready to leave. Short of passing through the doors, he stops and glances back at me, all without bothering to hide his distrust in his
Luke,
eyes.
dear, I'll be fine. Go back to your butler. I'm not some pregnant wife you have to worry about.
Not yet.
Fine. I have to go to that little ankle biter's career day later anyway.
Oh yeah, your niece.
I don't see why I have to go there. Kylie's your goddaughter.
Goddaughter, okay.
And yet, she has you around her little fingers, darling. That's basically the same thing.
If he ever has an answer to that, we don't get to hear it. Above the heavy thud of a door, and makes Mrs. Wright's own weary exhale after she's sure her husband is out of earshot. She's nothing but an apologetic when she fixes her gaze back to me, and then can't help but return the same. I can't help but do the same for her.
I am so sorry you had to deal with that. My husband can be a bit trying when he really applied himself.
It's fine, Miss Wright. No harm done. It was my fault for showing up here unannounced. And this might be strange coming from me, but he does have the right to be wary. The press can be quite vicious when it wants to be.
Caught unexpectedly, they'll pick you apart. It's not surprising why he acted the way he did around me.
Sweetie, if Luke treats every journalist who shows up here like that, I'm afraid we'll end up with a harassment lawsuit hanging over our heads sometime in the future.
I have a feeling that you already do.
Vicious or not, some sort of finesse has to be exercised when dealing with them.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't too offensive.
Not at all, Miss Wright. Besides, I don't think an interior design magazine would be interested in who harassed who this week. Unless it has something to do with fighting over tastefully arranged furniture. But even then, I don't think our readers will be too interested.
Oh, dearie. You've got a lot to learn. You really have no idea how a single tattle can ignite a spark in a crowd. Of course, at the end of the day, it's still the thought that counts. It's still a lovely anniversary gift from my husband. No matter. Let's just go.
She doesn't wait for an answer and immediately wanders over to a car parked some distance from us. Unsure, I find myself trailing after her. A chauffeur automatically opens the passenger side door as she nears, and gestures for me to follow when she climbs into the back seat.
To... where are we going exactly?
I need to get out of this stuffy house for a while. Moving in, planning the party. It's starting to get suffocating in there.
Suffocating.
Luke and Hansi can have their fun while I'm gone. I don't care. I'm getting out because I can. Another minute in there and I'll drown.
My bike.
There are, of course, a lot of things questionable about her invitation. Why she's asking a person she has only known for less than 2 days in the first place is one. How appropriate this is being another. The rest of it crashes the moment she shoots me an imploring look.
Please? I can have someone send it back to your address later. And it's just a trip to the city for some furniture, nothing more, I assure you. Marianne will be with us, and maybe you can tell me why you're here on the way.
Guess it wouldn't hurt. I might have to leave early, though.
Excellent, then. Hop in. That's what they often say, yes?
Pretty much. This can't be a good idea, but I don't really have any other choice, do I? Especially with the way her eyes light up when I agreed to it. In my pocket, the picture of her remains faceless, a voiceless shadow hanging threateningly between us, unknown to her. At least you're not going to be alone with her, so it's not going to be super awkward. And if the interior designer is there, you could totally say to the husband when he asks, "Oh, it was all business talk. Nothing crazy, nothing you need to be concerned about. I didn't sleep with your wife. By the way, congratulations. What do you mean? You'll know eventually." If someone told me I'd be spending my entire morning being dragged around half the downtown Luxburn looking for furniture, I probably would have simply smiled at them. Then perhaps even given them a good friendly pat on the shoulder and wished them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, it is most definitely a nice change of pace after weeks of getting bogged down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside my apartment whenever I can. If only the weather would be a whole lot nicer. Kind of less sun and more clouds, perhaps. With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us, high noon approaches. Is that McCree in the distance? Matt Mercer, no! Speaking of Matt Mercer, I started watching the One Piece dub for the Punk Hazard arc. It's just nice to see Matt Mercer in One Piece again. Trafalgar Law. Trafalgar Law. That's how they pronounce it, I think, in the Viz translation. I can see why Mr. Wright skipped out on this trip. The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Miss Wright in a less somber mood. After the 5th store, her pace is considerably livelier, her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the mansion earlier. The presence of another person might have helped as well. Although Miss McCulloch seems predisposed to small talk, preferring to keep to herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us wherever. She did acknowledge me with a small nod when we were introduced earlier. But that didn't make us... Yeah. I actually wonder what her model is in here, because I don't think we've ever seen it. But that didn't make standing outside in the store together any less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside.
So, interior design, huh?
She casts a sidelong glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper with successive strokes. Ah, there goes that. I did say I'm not good at starting or keeping conversations going, didn't I? She didn't look back up again, and I take that as my cue to stop any attempt of striking up dialogue with her, and keeping myself occupied with some other thing. Except what have we here is just Luxembourg and its busy streets. I'm going to have to Google this at some point so I know how to pronounce it. But that point will not be now. People going about their day like a normal. People are going about their day like normal. Cars moving in and out of sight and heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable, really. The ease with which a person can fade into the background here is reflective of the kind of city Luxburn always will be. But the humdrum's one thing I've learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay that way. There are times when it would have come alive, make itself known, and reassert itself back into the world. I'm gonna have to refill this. However, those moments are few and far between. Then again, with what graces the news channels lately, I'm starting to think it's going to happen sooner. Can't say I'm looking forward to what it'll bring. Yeah, murder spree, serial killer on the loose. Help me scrawled in the walls with blood.
Luxury living, is it?
Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts, just as I count the 13th passerby wearing a hat today. Okay, now this just reminds me of Psych, because that was a reoccurring thing with the dad, where he'd put a blindfold on his son. Okay, how many hats are in the room? I don't have time for this. Beside me, I can hear a faint rustling of paper and the clicking of her pen as she stashes them back into her bag.
Excuse me, what?
The magazine you're working for. It's Luxury Living, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You've been featured by them before, I take it?
A few years back, yes. For just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, though not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right?
It may not show on her face, but the pride is evident in her voice. Yeah, you could say that again.
Good folks, the people running the publication. Tell me, is DK still on the editorial team?
I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know.
Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him, actually, even if we both came from two different fields.
I wonder if we'll get to meet him.
I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Maybe we will when we cut to her, because I think, yeah. Probably when we finish wrapping up with Zach here, we're going to be playing as her, so we'll probably get a little bit more insight to her character now. Because I didn't think about that. If he's working for the magazine as a freelancer, and she's an interior designer, I'm surprised I didn't make that connection already. I hope he's in a good place.
Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this.
I wouldn't say I am, but experienced, you know? The more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade. That kind of stuff.
I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with the competition. Each year, a new talent emerges, and, well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices. Believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this?
I think so. Depends on how big the project is.
She reaches into her bag again. This time to pull out a business card, which she hands over to me.
When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris. He's my assistant. He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better.
Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in. But, alright, I'll give it a go once.
Marianne, could you look this over for me?
Again, the jarring dissonance between the models. It throws me off. Every time one of them pops back on screen. We've only seen her, I believe, as this model, so I'm kind of used to it for her. At the very moment, Miss Wright emerges from the store. When I look back at Miss McCulloch, a mask of professionalism has returned to her. Or at least, that's what it's trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes when she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that might be a little bit presumptuous. Whatever it is doesn't last and is briskly swept under the firm tone of the voice she assumes.
Definitely. Is there a problem?
They said they don't have the colors you suggested. Do you think we can change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want, and you know I'd rather not worry about this later.
I think it'd be better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me.
She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Miss Wright lets out a giggle and swipes the business card cleanly off my hand. She smiles, bemused a bemused little thing spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'd do that more often, the smiling thing. It suits her more than the other one she's frequently showing to the media.
I look away, and the next thing I know, you're picking up women. On the streets, while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appalled or amazed. Whatever happened to the Zach I met a day ago? About as tall as you. Photographer. Quite the gentleman.
She was giving me a job offer.
To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone.
God, she's a big flirt, but she's hilarious. I love her sense of humor.
It ain't like that, Miss Wright. And I'm sure Miss McCullough is not the kind of woman to let herself be picked up by strangers, let alone people she barely knows.
Oh, shush. Let me have my fun.
God, it's going to be very disappointing when we ruin your day with a your place is haunted at the end of this nice, bright, fluffy story, isn't it?
And didn't I say you can call me Hannah?
I forgot about that. Disturbed, Zachary decided to show the photographs to Hannah herself. He was greeted by Luke Wright arriving at the mansion. Just in time, Hannah appeared to save Zachary from a further interrogation. At her request, Zachary accompanied them to Luxburn City. Eek, look at that scowl. She gives the card back to me nevertheless, and with it her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful as she looks back towards the shop's display window. There's nothing remotely interesting in it for me when I follow her line of sight, though. A few trinkets here and there, fur rug, sofa, wooden side table, a lamp, all tastefully picked up and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. On second thought, it does look comfortable. But why they added a crib beside it baffles. Oh. She mentioned this when we were playing as her, that she saw a crib at an antique store, and she probably bought it anyway. This is going to be where she orders it. Unless, of course, the people they are hoping to market are those who more already have children or are about to have one. And maybe it is fitting. Who are you to judge what an antique store sells? Peculiar choice of the decorations aside, it does make for a nice icebreaker. If it's not on the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. Speaking of antique stores, I feel like the antique store that was in Toy Story 4 was a real missed opportunity. They could have taken that and really gone with it, but it was more just a set piece than anything else. Still leagues better than the awkward silence, which definitely was too way out of character for the personality of Hannah's. What is that one?
Oh, I think that one looks cute.
Hannah balks, to my surprise, shuffling 2 steps away from the window and glares at it with such vehemence, as if it did something remote, as if I did, it's, what? What? A funny sight when taken out of context, and I probably will be laughing really if I understand what warranted such a reaction from her.
I wasn't looking at the crib.
I wasn't really talking about the crib, Hannah.
Very good then. But it wasn't the crib, all right.
I have knowledge of the future.
Alright, I get you. But that's not it. Honest. I was just saying the stuff that was on display there looks nice. Or at least as nice that it can be compared to the ones we visited earlier. But I'm sure your interior designer has something different in mind for your mansion, so don't mind me.
I was hoping that would be enough to cut the topic short. Instead, she sighs, leans on a wall closest to her, and runs her hands through her lock of hair. There's a far-flung look in her eyes, even as she fixes on the concrete curb.
You need to stop looking at people like that, sweetie.
I'm afraid I don't quite catch your drift, ma'am.
I suppose you wouldn't be aware of it. Do you know you always carry this kind of phase?
Yes.
Like you're always staring at the world with this honest look. Like all there is to see is all the good in it.
Frankly, I don't see anything wrong if it's like that. I mean, there always has to be something in it. You know, a sprinkle of kindness here and there. Otherwise, we'd all be miserable.
I envy those who can look at the bright side of everything. But I am a harsh realist. I see a glass that has water in it. I don't consider it to be half full or half empty. It's half a glass of water. You can't really convince me otherwise.
For you, maybe. Some people have to fight through it just to see that.
It's like, is it half empty or is it half full? No, it's half a glass of water. It's 50%. It is both of those things. It is both half empty and half full. It's really up to preference which terminology you use. In fact, unnecessary even.
And kindness isn't always a great thing to have around. Sometimes too much of it can hurt.
I'm getting on a worthless tangent. Makes you wonder where this is coming from, how bad things have really gone for her to have this view. I do understand the sentiment, I really do. Still, when it's the last thing you can cling to, when things have gone irreversibly bad, sometimes you simply don't get to make a choice.
Besides, the point is, it's impossible to lie when a person is looking at you like that.
Ah, that's what she's getting at.
Or I could, but I'd feel like a horrible person afterwards. Did you hear that, Mr. Zack? You just made me feel like a horrible person.
You should!
I sort of wish I had one like it. Just so people would stop lying to my face.
Or you can start by being honest with yourself. It shouldn't be quite hard. Friends don't lie to each other, don't they?
I guess so.
So what was the lie?
She draws in a breath and lays a soothing hand on her stomach.
That
and,
it was really the crib I was looking at earlier, silly.
Of course.
You're right, Uncle Zack. It's cute, but the pattern's not to my taste. I'm pretty sure Marianne could do something about that, though.
Yeah, it's a wooden crib. You can repaint it, I'm sure.
At the moment, what I should really be worried about is if I'm ever going to be a good mother to this child.
Uh-oh, she dropped it. I don't know if she intended to, but she just dropped it.
Ned, I can't even tell the father he's going to be one in a few months' time. Probably doesn't even want anything to do with this whole pregnancy thing. What am I going to do, Zack? Because right now, I'm absolutely at a loss.
Hang on, let me just pick Zach's right off the concrete for him real quick, and then he can respond to you.
Oh.
A B.
Oh!
The realization strikes me like a ton of bricks suddenly bearing down on me. More than astonishment must have shown on my face, because Hannah lets out a chuckle, a slump on her shoulders, disappearance altogether underneath the mirth.
Don't look so surprised, dearie. Tied the knot 7 years ago, remember?
How long were my parents married when they had me? See, they were in their late 20s. They got maybe like 3 years? 4 years? Probably less. I don't really know, actually. I don't think I've ever asked.
Don't you think it's bound to happen?
She brandishes her hand in front of me, the unassuming silver band on her finger, glinting against the late morning sunlight for a second. I actually like silver better than gold, but that's a fact that I don't really share with a lot of people. Well, it's on the internet forever now. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the trace of sadness in her voice. Yeah, I mean, you haven't told her husband that you're pregnant yet. For all I know, there's an entire story there I'd ask, but it would be too inappropriate, even for friends. It's not my place to meddle to begin with.
Or at least that's what they've been saying early on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming.
But the kid is something you want, right?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Because if it ain't, then that's a whole other problem.
Of course. I wouldn't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here, all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about. Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model. I practically grew up with nursemaids pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well?
You don't need to have a fleet of nursemaids then. I would just maybe get one, like a nanny. I mean, I'm sure you can afford one. But if you're going to be home all the time, and just have Johans help you. Because I'm assuming Mr. Wright is going to be busy 99% of the time. And drunk the other 1%.
Oh, I can already see how this will end.
Divorce. To be fair, the alternative is death.
Huh. I guess it's not just my sister.
What?
You and my sister. I mean, you're both having jitters or something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters? Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then.
Is that really what they call it? First baby jitters? I know I've heard that before somewhere.
He even called me in the middle of the night. Has to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is.
I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet.
Wait till after the baby, then maybe.
Oh, you don't know that? My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. Said she's one cranky pregnant lady. Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before that bundle of joy arrived, huh?
It can't be that awful.
Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Right to decide, yeah?
Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up.
Yeah, he did, but we found out when we talked about it that it's because he doesn't think he'll be a good father, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Then maybe you should say it to his face. No mincing of words or beating around the bushes.
And if he says no?
You haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men? I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course, but there ought to be something that will hit him in that idea alone.
A wrecking ball would be nice.
Yeah, not gonna do it. Jokes could be made, but I'm not gonna do it. Laughter escapes me before I can stop it, and for a moment I thought I'd have done something wrong when she doesn't join in. He's still her husband, no matter what jests or complaints she hurls at him behind his... Wait, what? No matter what jests or complaints she hurls about him behind the media's eyes or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does, her chuckle a small hesitant sound at first. I find the rest of my unease slipping away.
Well, whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen. In the same way, you don't know if you'll be a good mom. Trust me, my sister's been there. It's perfectly normal. If, my opinion matters, though.
I don't have that worry. I'm going to be a great parent. I'm going to be probably a horrible person, but I will be a great parent. A long second indecision goes by. You see, my overconfidence is my weakness. I can feel her eyes. I can feel mine too. That really hurts. Filled with nothing but curiosity, boring into me as she waits for the rest. It's just a simple sentiment, but one thing I think she needs to hear for all other doubts that she unwittingly places on herself. I'm just not sure if it should come from me. I'll be damned.
I think you'll be a great mother, Hannah.
If she has an answer to that, I don't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it's out of my mouth, the bell hanging over the antique store's door chimes, and out comes Miss McCulloch. Malakalaka. For more than one reason, I have never been so relieved our talk got interrupted.
Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. We'll have everything you requested delivered early. I've left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check for a few things. I hope that's acceptable to you?
More than Marianne. This is a little early to say, but you did marvelous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow.
I'm only doing my job, ma'am.
Now go back in there and buy me that crib.
Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work.
Nonsense! You have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still make sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes. I'll see if I can introduce you to them tomorrow.
I really don't want to impose, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself.
A professional through and through.
You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur Le Photographe.
Le
You
photographe.
better be the one taking the pictures for the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset.
I blink at her, confused. Last I checked, I have nothing scheduled on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects, but with an expectant expression on Hannah's face alone, I've wondered before how they got Isabella to sell them the mansion, with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well, now the how is already standing in front of me, and it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. Oh, that's a very clever description. I have any doubts how she got around life. If I have any doubts how she got around life, all of them have been dispelled right this instant. Hannah hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be.
What event?
Our housewarming party, dearie. I've already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now.
I may have probably missed it. I haven't gotten the chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real-life happenings, they can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet.
That's not a problem. Nothing a little call from me can't fix. I'll have them know I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you'll show up. I expect to see you both there. No excuses.
Did we see Zach at the party? I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and watch my footage.
Good company, good music, good food. Of course I'll be there.
Lovely. I hope we have that settled then.
Because I know Ashton was there, and I know Becca was there.
I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this.
The real question is, we learned why Becca was there, but we still have no clue why Ashton was there. Was he, just accompanying his boss? Because I believe the Lees are his boss.
You two will have to excuse me.
Are you feeling fine, ma'am?
It's nothing big.
There is a short while in which her hand faintly touches her stomach when she says this. Her smile, as she does so, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid is already loved even when he or she has yet to have a sense of this world, and honestly, that's already, in my opinion, the first sign of a good parent. Unconditional love is surprisingly not as common as you would think. Candid moments like this, I wish I had brought the camera for.
Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but, well, you two know how it goes.
It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well.
Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way.
No, please. There's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city.
I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion. Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later.
Nah, I live within the city too. A few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because...
That's right. We gotta get to this. Here we go. Tension. Photos. Damn, I've completely forgotten about them. My hand grazes the side of my pocket where I kept them since this morning, and sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see them.
Because? Zach, sweetie, you're zoning out.
Miss Hannah, earlier, at the mansion. I think it will be better if you take a look at these yourself.
Oof. Seeing is believing, right? I reach into my pocket and pull out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and I have to stamp down the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having the gall to show her to her. It only cuts deeper in the instant both her and Miss McCulloch's expression changes. I did not hesitate at all to show her these. Zach did, though. Not me, who's controlling his actions, though. I have too much power. To say she's repulsed would be a total understatement. All this time, Hannah has been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour and the camera lenses, she's a whole different person. But as she goes through each of the pictures, I can get an easy read on her. Hey, look, welcome back to the inside text box, Hannah.
Zach, dearie, what is this?
Your photos. The ones you requested copies of. I mean, they came out that way, and I thought you should know.
Oh, I get it. You know, I've heard before that artists can be a bit weird. Have you ever gotten that kind of comment, Marianne?
Not in my line of work, I'm afraid.
Yeah, she does
Or
look different.
ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual work. Less stress that way.
Eh.
Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, hmm? As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, that's... You see, when we had that photo shoot yesterday, there was something.
I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible for you to give me normal-looking ones? Preferably with my head intact. I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic.
Why are people so stupid?
Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home. So please.
She drops them back in my hands, like the surface, like their very surface burned hers.
If you could redo this, that would be wonderful. I'm positive you can do a better job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum, hmm?
He's using a Polaroid. You can't edit those, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I can, sure.
You can take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go.
She leaves without so much as a wave. I don't have to take a guess to how I've dismayed her, or in her own words, weirded her out. Yeah. God, I didn't think that they would take it that badly. What are the odds I've also ruined my chances with the job she's offered earlier? Very high, I'd say. Foolish idea in the first place. Miss McCulloch departs shortly after Mrs. Wright has taken her leave. Something about getting a quick lunch before fetching a Berithal from Chris. I just got an achievement. I should check what that is. Pretty as a picture. I don't know what or who Berith. Oh, that was her cat, right? Must be important for her to be in kind of a hurry. Well, that doesn't seem to be. While she doesn't seem to be fond of small talk, it's something we can both agree on. At Lexbarn, Zachary and Hannah met with Marianne McCulloch. When Marianne was busy, Hannah disclosed her pregnancy frustrations to Zach. At the end of the talk, Zachary showed her the photos, which earned the disapproval of both women. Yeah. Okay, we have an option here. Do we go back and undo that and keep everyone happy, or do we keep this really bad thing in the hopes that it causes something good down the line? Honestly, because we've gone back in time and I don't think any of these decisions matter, part of me wants to just undo that decision, but I think we should probably just keep going. Lunch sounds good, or a walk around the city maybe. But the sun as high as it can be now, nah. After how things went with Miss Hannah I simply can't muster the appetite for anything at the moment. If I don't do anything with it now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again. And by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash? Rebecca? In all likelihood, they'll give me a pat on the back and a Z-Man, go get some sleep. You're at it again, from Ash. I talked to Isabella, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up at my apartment 2 days ago. Weird. There is one person, though.
Damn, I should have thought of that first.
As it turns out, I do have another choice. I'm not a religious person. I won't identify myself as such. Or rather, I can't. Sure, my grandparents didn't have to force me to go weekly. I'd happily join them. In fact, most of my childhood Sundays have been spent attending service. It's simply that, as you get older, the more experiences you get forming your own beliefs on the things that become easier, for the lack of a better word. And at one point, it just stopped. That kind of thing. Nevertheless, I hold no disdain for it. We're probably going to finish off this scene, and then we'll probably end. Sometimes it does help, when things are really, really bad, when the dreams won't stay where they should be. Talking does a bit. It's also a good thing Father Norman's, well, he's not completely the pious man you typically expect. My unlikely friendship only probably happened because he's the kind of guy who's cool with the young ones, as he so aptly puts it. And he is surprisingly, makes him easy to approach. And I believe he was invited to that party as well, but didn't show up because he was sick. Maybe he has something to say about the photos as well. It won't hurt since I've already gone ahead and went to Anselm at daybreak on my bike. At the very least, I know I won't get shouted at by whoever answers the door.
Unless someone does that inside a church. I highly doubt it.
Despite its age, the Luxembourg Church is a thing of wonder itself, with its high-valued ceilings and intricate stained glass windows. And I just realized now, like just now, that this is where the main menu for the game is. Swaying chandelier and all. Looked much nicer and less creepy during the day. Despite its age, wonder itself. One of the many gifts the Ermengarde family donated to the community when it's... Oh, this was built by the same people that built the mansion. This place is probably haunted too. Why did it have to tell me that? Or so I've heard from Rebecca. She mentioned this once, although it's mostly flew over my head then. At this time of day, the church is mostly empty, save for a few visitors and ushers shuffling about. We have ushers in a church? Some muttering prayers under their breath. The scene of burning candles and incense permeate the air. You mean the scent? Giving the place a general feeling of reverence. Pretty welcoming, all in all. Even so, I keep the noise my treads make to a minimum, disturbing the quiet feels a sin alone. An usher points me to a pew in front of the altar when asked where Father Norman prays. He mentions something about a good priest not being in good health. Oh, he is sick. Ever since he was asked by a couple to bless their new home before moving in. This is the first time in days he's left his room. No surprise there, with the weird heat lately, even Rebecca caught something. Nervous little chap, the kid. Nevertheless, he leads me close to the foot of the dais. Dais? I'm terrible with words. With a reminder not to stay too long before walking off. Seconds after, father shifts and stands. He doesn't seem to have noticed me, and I have to give him a little tap on his shoulder. When he looks, though, to say he's surprised is an understatement.
Stay away.
His voice comes out with a whisper, almost inaudible, in the hush, a quiet, restrained indifference to what we were both standing. But the tremor is there. He focuses on me with wide, bulging eyes, copious amounts of sweat appearing on his forehead despite the relative coolness of the place.
Father Norman?
Keep your distance.
Hey, it's me, Zach, remember?
Stay away. Don't come near me.
It must be the fever talking, or whatever he caught. Has to be. I don't recall ever doing anything from him to drive me away like this. In all the years I've known him, he's been nothing but polite, nothing but accepting of people regardless of beliefs or status in life. For words akin to a threat to come out of him is simply beyond unimaginable.
Go back to where you came from. Leave.
Father, what did I do?
Leave now.
I extend a hand to his shoulder, meant to be reassuring, but he recoils, his ankle catching on the edge of the Diaz. He backs away. His shout, when I attempt to reach out again, echoes through the entire hall, catching the attention of a few people inside. I try to keep a level tone, but with these strangers' eyes trained on us, panic starts to weave its way into me.
Stay away, demon. Go back to the hell you came from.
Father, it's okay. I only came here for some pictures I thought looked odd. I figured you might know something.
From my pocket, I fish out photos and try to hand them to him. Instead, he strikes my wrist away, almost like an accusation, and sends the photographs fluttering uselessly to the floor. Helpless, I can only watch as he curls into himself on the ground, a sad, blubbering mess, whimpering to himself. He tips his head forward and begins rocking, his hands clapped over his ears.
That accursed spirit, so full of anger and pain. All those horrible things I've seen. Can't sleep. Can't eat everywhere I look. Go away. Go away. Go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is a house of God. Begone, demon. Lord have mercy, God, our Lord, King of ages, all-powerful and almighty. You who made everything and transform everything simply by your will.
Whoo! Number of people have moved closer, mostly just to gawk. Thankfully, as if to save him from being an utter spectacle, two ushers came out, taking him away. One of them, the kid from earlier, shoots me an apologetic look. I can't even return it to him. Anxiety is a powerful thing, a firm little notion that clings, eats, and consumes you. I can still hear his prayers even as they drag him away.
May he keep at bay and vanquish every evil power, every poison or malice invoked against us by corrupt and envious people. Then under the protection of your authority may we sing in gratitude.
He gonna be the next victim. It rings, hums in me as I am left to pick up the pieces in the chaos. Back to square one we go. If there is salvation in this, I hope we find it soon. Disappointed because he wasn't able to accomplish his mission with Hannah, Zachary went to his friend, Father Norman, for advice. However, in an unexpected turn of events, the priest vehemently pushed Zach away, yelling curses and calling him a demon. No, Zach, you should have looked behind you. We still got a little time. I said we'd finish that scene, but I didn't expect it to be so short. The moon is well into the night sky by the time we make it back home. My heavy treads and sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some semblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me walk like that. But after today, I really can't give a damn about everything. The mattress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop down on it. And I find myself looking at the paper under my grip. He hasn't seen Isabella in 2 days, he said? Okay. I hope Isabella's okay. Isabella is my favorite character, if you haven't figured that out yet. Zack is a close second. Hannah probably holding a firm bronze medal. As promised, Miss Wright had my bike delivered back to my apartment. Found it parked in the rack downstairs with an invitation and a note attached to it. In fact, raise your glasses, give cheers, good times. You are cordially invited to the Wright's housewarming party, October 28th, 2016, Friday. 2016. This game came out in 2017, which means I guess it was in development around that time. 3 o'clock, afternoon onwards. Ermengarde Mansion. Ooh, they just barely blurred out the address so we can't see if it's a real place. Be there, Hannah. Be there, it said. If only it were that easy. But it will give me a chance to talk to her about that thing in her house. With a sigh, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed along with the invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow when my head ain't muddled with thoughts of headless woman and haunting smiles of ghost. Belatedly, it occurs to me I haven't eaten anything since I left this morning. And an empty, gnawing ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time, and frankly, a disappointment. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on, the part where I don't know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damn letter, everything has been thrown out of the loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make a sense of all this. Closing my eyes, I let the noise of the streets below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's one thing that hasn't changed. And we'll end at that point. Okay. Well, looks like we're going back to the party that's going to end with accusations of a bang. Poor Father Norman. %. Oh, I have half the backgrounds. There's a lot of CG. Wait, where's the one we just got? Oh, it's organized by chapter, that's why. We're in chapter 3. I didn't even realize that this is how they do the chapters, huh? Interesting. I wonder what memory fragments are. Yeah. Until next time. Bye-bye.